So what you got to do at the moment is you should be working on lab 13. I did give you until the end of this week to do that. And the other thing that you've got to do is the assignment 4. Now, Othman and I were just talking about assignment 4, and that assignment is mostly just writing an answer. And that brought up the question, well, what will the final exam be like? I guess you're probably anticipating that maybe the final exam would be something where you have to write stuff. That's possible, but I'll be honest, I just don't know at the moment. But I suspect, based on the times that I've taught this course before, it's usually been similar to the other tests, just sort of a bigger version of the other tests. So like the tests are 2 hours, the exams 3 hours. And that's in proportion to the marks that are given to the final exam as well, because the final exam is 30 marks and your tests are 15. You do have to come to the college for the final test. If you don't think that you can come to the college, you really need to be talking to Lee Willis like immediately. Okay, so about the test, final exam. Final exam is on the 7th of April at 8 o'clock in the morning. We have 3 classrooms that are assigned to us for that test. From memory, I think it's like 228, 226, and 227. But yeah, it's or it might be 218. It's in that area, right? So I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it's just down the hall from where we are sitting here in my where I am sitting in my office. So you'll need to be there at 8 o'clock. You know, the usual things probably. So what that also means is not everybody from the class will be in the same room because of the COVID thing, right? We can't. We got to spread people out for the final exam. So you should expect that. Yeah, what else? So if you look at the project, that's the other thing that you need to be working on is the project. I can't believe I was doing so there's our assignments, the project. If you look at that, you do have to do a presentation. And I think okay, how are we going to do the presentation? Oh, come on. Maybe I should have downloaded this. All right, delivery 5, CSS for mobiles, all et cetera, et cetera. Right, contact form, final submission. Look, you know, it doesn't mention a presentation, but wasn't that in the? I guess it wasn't. I'm thinking of another class. You guys are lucky. So you have to do a final submission on the 3rd of April. But I think I remember there is something mentioned in the course outline about that. So that I don't think I'm just pulling this out of my head. So or out of somewhere else. Let's have a look at the course outline. I think you'll see that in the last week we got something about presentation. So I think what that will be is I'll just sort of ask you questions about the see, there it is. It's called project, not presentations, but interviews. So what will happen is I may just have a one-on-one with you where I just sort of ask you about how did you do this. So where we look at so it's not a presentation. Okay, so relax. You don't have to do a presentation. You can see my screen, right? But what you do have to do is sort of come to class that week and answer any questions regarding your project. So I hope that's okay with you. Well, we have to do that because
you mean the project, the task we are doing?
Yeah, there won't be anything in person, Mawia. The project is that website that you're making. I think that was Sarah I was talking to there. Yeah, you have to answer questions about it. So it looks like that's due on the 3rd of April. That's kind of like pushing it, right? So I really encourage you to get that done before the 3rd of April, right? Because 4 days later, you got a final exam. So there comes some very valid questions. Will we be doing the project interviews in person? No, we don't need to do it in person. No. We don't have to do anything in person except the final exam. That's the only thing that we have to do in person because it's a 30% assignment. So no, the project you can Zoom or whatever. Yeah, it's really just going to be me asking you questions about it, and I might not even do that with everybody. So the purpose of the project review is the purpose of the project review is sort of your chance to defend your project, and that might not be necessary. I might look at your project and say, oh, that stands on its own, requires no defense. Does that make sense to you? So this is a sort of valid way of doing assessments where we have students defend what they're doing. Now, there's a question there about the a final exam being on paper. The answer that I have to that is I don't know that it is on paper. It may be. I wouldn't go so far as to saying that it is. I don't know that it's on paper, and I expect it probably isn't. Probably there will be a paper with instructions, and then probably you will have to do something on using your using the computer and the editor that's there. So you notice I was careful not to say using Visual Studio Code, which we all seem to like, and I introduced you to that. And I don't sort of apologize for introducing you to that. I'm sure you're going to ditch Notepad++ as soon as this course is over, but we still have to do things in the same mode as the other classes, and they have been using Notepad++, and the problem is the classroom might only have Notepad++. And you know that because we had 2 tests there and people went there and the only thing they could find was Notepad++. So expect that that's the kind of thing, your situation you're going to be in. A computer, all it's got's Notepad++, and you have to write things. So yeah, you don't expect to see brackets. Don't expect to see Visual Studio. Cheat sheet, again, I don't know the conditions of the test. We haven't actually spoken about it, but I expect that it will be consistent with the other tests that we've had. So that would mean that you would have a test sheet, a cheat sheet. I think that's the way we've always done it. I think that's the way we'll continue to it. But don't count on that right now. I mean, you know, I'm trying to help you, but I'm constrained. I hope you understand that I don't really have the choice. So, but I will keep you as soon as I know, I will let you know for sure. But that's my expectation is that's how it'll be. Be 3 hours sitting at a computer, 4 or 5 questions to answer, probably working on one sort of website. I expect it would be a website, not a web page. So I expect that you would need to have a navigation menu. I expect that you'd need to have some external CSS. Could be however, it could be 3 pages which are so different from each other that the CSS would be internal CSS within the heads. But you should be able to do a link to a external CSS, and you should expect be in the exam. There won't be anything in the exam that we haven't covered in labs.
All of this in 3 hours.
Yes, there won't be anything.
Wow.
So I mean, probably 3 or 4 questions. I mean, you know, there won't be anything, I don't think, harder than the last test, really, because what have we done since the last test, right? The last test, we had adaptive layout. And since then, what have we done? Forms. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, yeah, it's going to
2
be
questions. The second one is copy paste from the first one. Just change one line in the CSS. That was the last test.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, so yeah, it could be like that, but I think it'll be probably a bit more. Okay. Right. So there I go. If I keep on talking, I'll just be repeating myself. So I'm going very short video that I'm going to upload now is just going to state the last bits of assessment that you have, bearing in mind. All right. So you have lab 13, which is hacking a website. I hope that's kind of obvious to you now. So you can look at the code of a website and find the elements that you need to make a change to, make those changes, save it, sort of claim it as your own. This is kind of a normal thing in in website development. Quite often you would have to do that if you're working in a company. They have a website, every time they want to make a change, they don't go and rebuild a new website. They're going to make little tweaks. So that's what Lab 13 is about. I hope that's okay for you. You have assignment 4, which is to write some understanding that you have regarding forms mostly. So yeah, I think you could expect that to show up on the final. And then you have the project, and you should prepare yourself that be aware, 60% of that project mark is going to be on the final that you deliver into that Dropbox. Now, the best way to do that is just going to be to put a URL to where you've put your project on the SIT server. I hope that you've done that. I mean, that's really great, because then you can sort of share that with all your friends. And also it's easier for me to sort of look at it working. Now, please do both. Save it to the SIT server and do a compress and send the compressed file to me, because on the SIT server, I won't actually be able to look at the code. All I'll be able to do is see the site because it's published, right? And so therefore it's behind some security. So yeah, please do compress your work into a folder, upload the compressed work, and I will look at that. And then also give the URL so I can see it working on your computer. Then the other thing is be prepared for the final exam. Can't really say much more about it, but I will as soon as I find out information. But I think you can expect it to be like the other tests that we've had. And then the last thing is that when you present your project, that you should be prepared to have an interview with me to sort of defend what you did on your project. And that's all.